Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Tony Warfield. Thank you so much for being on tonight. Tonight is a special presentation. We're going to be having a conversation for for healthcare professionals. And I'm excited about the person that's going to be presenting today because of who she is. This is a very, very dynamic superstar of a woman, at least from my perspective. She is the daughter of the only man that consistently made me go to church, my pastor. So she's a phenomenal woman. She's been in the healthcare industry for over 30 years, and she's actually retired and went into real estate. So you can't stop a fantastic person from continuing to be fantastic. But tonight she's going to be talking about financial stewardship for healthcare professionals, and this is important, especially for my partners and I, because there's a lot of Medicare professionals out there and healthcare professionals out there, physicians out there that really don't know how to properly manage their money. So having this young lady on tonight to be able to share some of her wisdom and be able to help a lot of healthcare professionals avoid some of those pitfalls is a real great opportunity for us to really service our community. So I'm excited, motivated, and thrilled to be inviting you to listen to a wonderful person, Miss Yolanda Duncan. You got it? You got it, Miss Duncan, Mrs. Duncan?
Yes, thank you so much, Tony, for that glamorous introduction. My goodness. I didn't know who you were speaking about, but I'll take it. Thank you
It's
so
all
much.
yours. You got to accept those gifts because God gives gifts to those that deserve them, and you got so many of them, and you share yours with everyone else. I just got to throw a couple of what do the young people say? I don't even know what the young people say. Just giving you your props. I'm gonna go with my generation.
Okay,
How about that?
got it.
All right.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I do appreciate the invitation. I also think you're a dynamic, a young man as well, and you're doing a lot of great work. So that's why I'm so happy to be partnering with you tonight to get this information out. And thank you all for joining. My presentation is just called Financial Literacy and Stewardship for the Healthcare Professional. And as Tony stated, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And you let me know when you're able to see the slides. Are you able to see that?
Yes, I see it clearly.
Okay, great. So I am basically sharing just some wisdom and knowledge that I've gained over the last 36 years in the healthcare field and basically making a whole lot of money and early on not really knowing how to manage it. My goal now is just to really reach out to the young healthcare professional to give them some knowledge and information on financial management. Just a little bit about me. Um, as Tony stated, I'm a registered nurse. I've been with Kaiser Permanente. I was with Kaiser Permanente for 36 years. I started there when I was in nursing school. Actually, I started there when I was 18 years old as a summer youth employee. And then I left for a couple of years, went to college, started nursing school, came back as a student nurse. And so I was, I guess, a CNA, you call it at that time. I worked my way from there to assistant medical center administrator when I finally retired in 2023. So I have a long history in healthcare, loved healthcare. It, took very good care of my family. I just loved working with all of my colleagues, physicians, just, tons of nurses and just a lot of people I worked with. Loved the field, loved it, but I did realize that there was a lot of knowledge deficit for us in other areas. We were really good nurses. We were really good, healthcare professionals, but there was some opportunity for increasing our financial literacy. So also, since I've retired, I've actually become a real estate investor. And I have formed three companies. The first one is Sunrise Home Partners, which is my own personal real estate investment company that I purchase properties through. I also started RN Property Investments with a partner of mine who I met in the Women's Real Estate Investing Network. And she's also a registered nurse who left nursing. And we have another company called RN Property Partners. So RN Property Partners is our LLC in California, and then we also have RN Property Investments as an LLC in Dallas, in San Antonio, Texas. In addition to that, I'm doing some legal nurse consulting as well. I have completed my certification for that since I retired. And my field of expertise is administration in that area and continuing care. There's a lot of opportunity to improve healthcare in our system. And so I work on the side of the attorneys to assist them in identifying areas of negligence, medical negligence. And so that's something I'm pretty passionate about. And then as far as my real estate investing goes, I currently am working on my fifth project. I purchased a condo in Inglewood, sold that earlier this year. I'm working on a fix and flip in San Antonio, Texas. Hopefully that will be on the market by the end of May. I have a property in Laguna Woods, California. It's a condo that is on the market. It's sold, and I think we'll close escrow this week. That's our goal. And then there's a property in Cypress, California, mobile home that I'm working on. It's a fix and flip, and that project should be done in about 2 weeks. And just purchased a residential assisted living facility in Las Vegas, Nevada. So that is a partnership with 5 other real estate investors. And we purchased a residential assisted living facility that's already up and operating. The owner was a little tired, so she sold her facility. So I'm super excited about that opportunity and just excited about the diversification and things that you can do with your financial portfolio. So that's kind of what I'm working on now.
That just lets me know that you're pretty lazy. So
Yeah, I did not retire to sit down. Sorry. Okay, so just a little bit about the healthcare landscape. And I think this is one of the reasons that Tony wanted me to speak to you all. And I'm sorry the slide kind of got cut off a little bit, but I'll just speak to it. The healthcare landscape for nurses in 2025 is pretty much characterized now by a growing demand for nurses, particularly with the aging population. So that's one reason that I actually invested in the residential assisted living, because there is not enough supply to meet the demand for those that are aging, especially for care after the hospital. So there's a huge need and a huge area of opportunity to have long-term care beds, boarding care beds, and things like that for the aging. So that's an area of opportunity for nursing. So with the aging population and increased healthcare needs, coupled with the shortage of nurses and the rise of telehealth and digital tools, there's definitely a need for nurses. But after COVID-19, we were tired. Nurses and physicians were tired and burned out physically and mentally. So what we're seeing now is a lot of staffing shortages. We're seeing a lot of shortages in the education area for nurses. And there's a statistic that I researched when I was preparing for this presentation. Nearly 18% of newly licensed RNs quit the profession within the first year. So like with advanced nurses who are also tired, the common cause is stressful working conditions, lack of leadership and supervision, and understaffed facilities. I was talking to Tony about this when we were preparing for this. I was telling him how one reason that I decided to retire early is because, you know, healthcare is moving towards a business. And that didn't really sit well with me. I really feel that patient care, quality patient care comes first, and that we need to always make that our priority. But you know, during my time in leadership and administration, I had several areas that were under me. So I was like over 7 different departments, and part of the role of the service line that I served was discharge planning, case management, basically getting the patients ready for discharge, getting them out of the hospital. But a lot of times we were asked to get them out way before they were ready. And so and that's related to the business of healthcare, you know, get those beds clear so we can bring other patients in. And so that didn't sit well with me. And I see that's why so many healthcare professionals are leaving the profession. I have 5 African-American female physicians that I just went to a celebration for, and they all retired early. And I thought, what a loss to our organization, because they were excellent physicians, but it was just stressful. It's a lot. So my whole point is that, and I'm going to go to the next slide, the problem that I see and why I feel that it's so important that the young healthcare professionals need to know how to manage their money so you don't have to work forever. it's a stressful environment because healthcare environment is so stressful. You need a definite plan on managing the money that you earn so that you have a designated time frame for how long you'll remain in the industry. And you don't want to have to work until you're 65 years old. I mean, most should try to plan to retire early. I see some in healthcare that have to keep going, even though they're tired, even though they're stressed out. And I didn't retire as early as I wanted to, but I did have a plan to retire early. And so I was happy that I was able to get out when I did. And not, I hate to say get out because healthcare has been great to me. It's been wonderful to me and my family, and I loved it. I love my job. But it just comes a time when you realize when you're not aligned with the goals and the values of the organization, that's when you have to kind of decide that it's time. So you need to have a plan to retire early with the pension benefits and a plan. I see in some of the young professionals a lack of early strategy for saving their money. Healthcare professionals make great money, but they need to start saving right away to prepare for the next step. Also, they need income diversification because there's a lot of opportunities in healthcare. I mean, literally, if you want to work 24 hours a day, you could, because there's so many opportunities and so many open positions, so many different areas that you can go into, especially as a nurse. When I was in nursing or in my position at Kaiser, I worked a second job for 13 years. So I worked as a nursing instructor at LA Harbor College for 13 years while I worked at Kaiser. So that was income diversification. If one thing didn't work out, I could always follow another. And that's what I would encourage the young healthcare professional to do. Explore other opportunities for other streams of income with the knowledge and expertise that they've gained in healthcare. And then the other problem that I see with the young healthcare professional is that they sometimes, and I'm speaking to the choir because this was me, like keeping up with the Joneses. You don't need to impress anyone because you're a nurse or you're a doctor. You need to live below your means, not live at your means or above. And I see that a lot of times because when you make a lot of money, it's like, oh, I can spend this, I can have this, I can have that, I can get the fancy car, I can get the clothes, I can get all the stuff. But if they can start early realizing you don't need all that stuff, I mean, you really can live well without having to have all the bells and whistles and all the fancy things, and to put the money in a place where it can be better utilized. So, financial literacy and stewardship. Are you all still able to see the slides okay?
Yes, ma'am. I see it clearly.
Okay, very good. All right. So the power of financial literacy. The best investment that you can make is an investment in yourself. The more you learn, the more you'll earn. And that's a quote by Warren Buffett, who I love because I think he's such a brilliant financial, I guess, advisor. I don't know what you call him because he's just.
I call him a guru.
Yeah, guru, all things finance. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard the story that he still lives in his original home that he purchased with he and his wife. He paid $150,000 for it. He's still living in the same home. So he's very wise when it comes to finance. So I follow him a lot. But it's so important to educate yourself on finances. Financial literacy refers to your grasp and effective use of various financial skills from budgeting and saving to debt management and retirement planning. It equipped you with the knowledge to make informed decisions, leading to greater monetary stability, less stress, and a higher quality of life. Financial literacy empowers you to take control of your finances and navigate the challenges and opportunities that arise, and it's a crucial element in achieving financial health. So my goal, and not only with healthcare professionals, I'm gearing this towards them, but this could be for anyone. I have like a lot of grown adult children, and so I try to encourage them the same way. I have two sons that are attorneys, and they're into the bells and whistles right now, right? They're buying all the things. And I'm like, slow it down. You don't need all of that. You need to put that money in a property or put that money, but they like to spend because they just became attorneys. And so they're excited about making this money. They go from being a college student to making over $200,000 a year. And they're just like, So it's literally like, okay, you need to slow down. You need to figure it out. You need to have a plan for your finances and not just spend. So financial stewardship, the responsible and wise management of resources, including your money, your time, and talents to achieve long-term financial health and align with personal goals. So one thing when we look at financial stewardship, we need to look at resource allocation. Where is the money going? And as financial professionals, I know you all know all of this that I'm saying already because you're right in the mix of it. But as you speak to those that are that you start working with as clients, they a lot of times need help with managing their finances and having a plan. So whatever resources you can lead them to is great. I have a financial advisor in addition to Tony. Tony is helping me with the insurance portion, but I have also a financial advisor that manages the my portfolio. And I was clueless when we first started. I've been working with them for a while, but I literally needed a lot of support. Like to have me speaking on finance today is really something because I've come a long way. I mean, I made the money, but I always didn't put it in the right place. So it's so important to know where your money is going. It's so important to teach them to track their expenses, to look at things like, eating out, how much that can drain your budget, and use wisdom with the purchases that you make, to be cost conscious, to, be conscious of what you're paying for things. Don't just randomly buy things, but make sure you're making good financial decisions. Don't overspend for items. Look for sales. Shop at bulk stores like Costco, Sam's Club. I'll tell you a story. My son he's an avid Costco goer, and he's always buying things from Costco, like even his clothes. And I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you buying clothes? But he starts saying, Mom, their clothes are great. And so I actually, since I've been retired, I've really tried to watch every penny because I don't want to ever have to go back to work. So I literally start buying like sweats and sweatshirts and things. I'm like, you know what? You're right. The clothes are great at Costco. So that's my story. Because before I would just shun it. But now I'm like, hey, there's nothing wrong with it. Save a penny when you can. Set financial goals. It's important that we set financial goals and find out what goals do you have. You got to figure out, what do you want to do with your money? How do you want to spend your money? What goals do you have? How much do you want to save? It's important to create SMART goals as it relates to your financial plan. Make sure your goals are specific, they're measurable, they're attainable, they're relevant, and they're time-based. Also, using time wisely. Time is your most valuable asset and resource, and time is money. So I encourage the younger generation, do not waste your time on activities that are non-productive because it will ultimately cost you. And then giving, it's more of a blessing to give than it is to receive. I think it's important to find a cause that's important to you, something that you believe in, and give to that organization. Because when you have an open hand, then you can receive. Things will come back to you. When your hand is closed, you can't get anything. Nothing comes back to you. So I give to my church. I believe in giving 10% of my income to my church. I give to organizations also that I believe in, to other ministries and things like that, that I see that they're doing a good work, and I want to participate in that work. And then key principles of financial stewardship is just like I stated: responsibility, accountability, having wisdom, and being content. Taking ownership of your financial decisions and their consequences, not just about accumulating wealth, but taking ownership of your financial decisions and the consequences. Being transparent and responsible for how your resources are used. You need to track it. You need to pay attention to what you're doing, be accountable to what you're spending, making informed decisions that align with long-term goals and values. If you have a plan, it's easy to stay on track with the plan. If you don't have a plan, you look up and you don't know where your money's gone. And then being content, avoiding being greedy and finding satisfaction and having enough. One example that I placed on the slide was minimalism. It's something that I've actually adopted because I believe in it. I believe in having just what you need, not having so much. I remodeled my home in 2021, and I literally, and this sounds crazy, but threw everything out. I had just raised all my kids pretty much. I still have a 20-year-old son that's home and a 20-year-old godson that lives with me. But my older children were gone, and they came with a lot of stuff. Over the years, you accumulate things. But I literally got rid of everything, and I only brought back in exactly what I needed. Like one set of dishes, one set of silverware, one set. You don't need bundles and bundles. And I had just stacks and stacks of stuff. And you just basically, when you have just what you need and you pare things down and you live a minimalist kind of concept, it frees your mind and it gives you clarity of thought, and you're able to, it's not so much like clutter around. Okay, and then managing your personal finances. So It's important to budget, to save and invest, to manage debt, and to start early planning for retirement. Oh boy, the slide didn't come out right on here. Okay. Well, what I had done there, I had a pie chart, and it was basically about key areas of budgeting. And budgeting is a foundation of financial health. Healthcare providers or professionals must adopt an effective budgeting system to manage their high income and equally significant expenses such as mortgage payments, insurance premiums, and ongoing costs. So the key areas to prioritize in the budget is housing costs. You should allocate about 30% of your income for housing. That if you have like a plan and a budget, you can stay within that, then you can manage your finance as well. But if you spend 50%, if you have a mortgage payment that is well over your means, then that's going to affect the other areas of your budget. So you should allocate 30% of your income on your housing costs. That will help you avoid cash flow issues. You should also have pay your educational debt. Most people that are in healthcare, most healthcare professionals have some educational debt. Physicians usually have student loans. Nurses who are like master's prepared or doctoral prepared, they have student loans. Even just, if you go to nursing school, a lot of times, like I had student loans as well. I had student loans for several years. You have to prioritize the student loans. Also, insurance, healthcare professionals should ensure that they have adequate health, disability, life, and liability insurance. And I know that's something that you all believe in, that you can support. And they need to have the right type of insurance, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And then savings and investment. They should dedicate 20 to 25% of their monthly income to savings and investments to build a robust financial cushion. And then finally, an emergency fund. It's important to set aside funds to cover at least 6 months of living expenses to handle unexpected events. Save 10% monthly from your monthly salary. You save 10% of that until you reach the 6-month supply. Once you get to the 6-month supply, you can allocate those funds to your regular short-term budget. So that would be your long-term savings, and the other savings would be your short-term savings. I'm sorry you can't see the slide. It was actually pretty good. Okay.
I'll make sure I'll get a copy of it from you when we get
Sure.
a chance.
I can send a copy, absolutely. So for debt management, it's important to strategically address student loans, like I said, and other debts to improve financial stability. The reason I put student loans first is because a lot of times, like I stated, healthcare professionals have student loans and they need to pay those things off as soon as possible because they will build up. Even though they give you a very low interest rate, that interest will build. It happened to me. And so it's important to address that first and to get those out of the way. Like I told my son, I said, pretend that you don't have a salary for the first year or two and start allocating, like double or triple payments on your student loans to get that out of the way. Then you don't have that hanging over your head. And so, yeah. So anyway, I'm sorry, I got a little throw off. Okay. So anyway, managing your debt. Like I said, student loans should go first. And then one thing I would talk to them about is how to use credit. It's important that you understand how to use credit. Do not go above a 30% utilization on your credit card usage because that's something that will affect your credit score. Make sure you apply for cards with low interest rates. Use credit for everyday expenses. Then pay it off in full before the statement's closing date. So if you rarely use your credit cards, if you're trying to build credit, you would use your credit cards for everyday expenses like groceries. But you make sure you're tracking when that statement closes so that you can pay it off so you don't build interest, but you actually show a good payment history. And then use the benefits to credit, like free miles for the airlines, companion passes, the things that you can get from credit. Use the benefits, and that saves you money down the line. And then how to pay off debt. It's important that we track all of our expenses and payment due dates. Ensure that you pay the bills before they're due. Ensure that you don't pay the actual amount they're requesting, but you pay more than the amount they're requesting. If you have a $25 credit card payment, pay $50 on that credit card payment. Or pay it off if you can, if it's a lower balance. And also you can use different types of spreadsheets to track your your bills and your debt. I use Intuit QuickBooks. Also before that, I had created my own spreadsheet, like an Excel spreadsheet, and I just tracked the due date. I tracked the company, and I put all the information down, when it's due, when I paid it, to make sure. And I would review that sheet every 2 weeks to make sure that my bills were paid, they were paid on time. And I've done that for several years. And then to pay down debt, there's a method that I love called the snowball method. So the snowball method is a method where you actually, and you probably have heard of it because you all are in finance, but basically you start with your lowest bill, the lowest balance on your bill, and you pay off that bill first, and then you move to the next lowest, and then you pay that one off. So the money you would have used for the payment on the first bill, you apply it to the next bill, and then you pay that down. So it's like taking a snowball, and you kind of like you're knocking down the bills, and you're knocking them out, and you're paying them off eventually. And there's a actual tool that I included in this presentation called, let me see, it's here. It's called the Debt Reduction Calculator. And it's a free calculator, and it's really great. I've used it for several years, called vertex42.com. And you can just download it, and you can, if you have Excel on your computer, it goes right into your Excel system. You enter your bills, you enter the balance, the rate of your interest, your payment, and you custom how you want to pay them off. They have different methods. I chose a snowball method, but there's methods where you can pay down the interest rate first. So if you have higher interest rates and you want to pay those off first, you can do that. For me, it made more sense for me to take the smallest one and go to the largest one. It'll even set up the payment plan for you over the next like 5 or 6 years, however long it takes you to pay it off. And it'll tell you exactly when the bill will be paid off. So you don't have to go and pay a debt management company. You can do it yourself. It's really simple. And then when I spoke of using resources to make a budget. So this is a budget tool that's really good. You actually can, I don't know if you can see it, I'll make it a little bigger. It's on consumer.gov, and it's actually just a template to make a budget, and you can type into it. And then once you make your budget, you can print it out. And this is actually a pretty nice form as well. And I have the link for that. So when you get the presentation, you can use that and maybe use it as a resource for your clients. All right. I'll pause for a second before I move on. Are there any questions or?
Well, I definitely love this because, it is amazing to me that you've amassed so much knowledge. And if you will allow me to ask this question, you've been in the medical industry for 36 years.
Yes.
How long did it take you to learn or amass this much knowledge during that 36 years? And how would your life have been different had you learned this sooner?
I've always been interested in finance. I've always been interested in real estate. And so um, when working throughout all those years, I never really had time to put in to really dive deep into like real estate knowledge and just understanding finances. So I've always just kind of had a financial planner to help me. I've learned along the way, but I'd say probably in the last 5 to 6 years, I've really been deep diving because I knew that retirement was on the horizon for me, and I needed to understand how to manage my money. And the way that I handled my retirement, I took it all out of Kaiser. So I didn't leave it there for them to manage. I have it myself. And so I manage it myself with the help of an advisor. And so I just want to be smart. I want to make wise financial decisions. So it's taken time. And I've always been interested, like I said. So I've always read books on finance. I've always done seminars and things. But I really, like I said, I've done a really deep dive in the last 5 to 6 years to really try to understand it and understand credit and just to understand how it works. And so I really, in the last 2 years, I've really just immersed myself in this whole arena because it's a part of the work that I do with my business and with my real estate. I have to understand money. I have to understand how it works. I can't make money if I don't understand it.
So that's powerful to me because you being in the medical field for so long, you're not an anomaly. So from my perspective, being a financial professional, someone that has this level of knowledge, or at least in the beginning, that level of interest, how would a financial professional approach a healthcare professional who might also be intrigued by financial information?
Well, one issue that I've had in the past when I sought out financial advisors, it was always someone who wanted to sell you a life insurance policy. They would say they're a financial advisor, but then at the end of the day, they wanted to sell you a policy. So I was always disillusioned. But I would say offer help with managing the overall big picture. Life insurance is a huge piece of it, yes, but give them the knowledge that they need, like just this simple presentation that I have that just kind of walks through how to manage, your financial picture. That would speak volumes to them, because I'm telling you, the way that you work in healthcare, you're so busy all the time. You barely have time. Like, I don't even know how I did all of that I was doing. When I finally retired, I'm like, how did I do all that? It was a lot. I just didn't really have time to immerse myself and to gain knowledge other than what I was working on, because it was so demanding. My career was so demanding. I had to put all my time and energy into that, and raising a family, and having kids. Like, there's only so many ways you can stretch yourself. So having an expert in finance and someone that can sit down with you and walk you through this kind of stuff would be huge.
And I appreciate that, because one of the questions that some of my teammates have, we are life insurance professionals, life insurance producers, and unscripted. I want y'all to know we did not set this up, but she really answered the question perfectly, because one of the things I talk to the team about is you have to be familiar with other areas in the financial industry, right? You cannot just be a one dog pony show. You have to understand credit. You have to understand taxes. You have to understand Social Security, Medicare, because your clients are going to be asking questions about this. So, I hate to say it, but the word life insurance, or the words life insurance, is almost toxic. Even though people know that they want it, even though they know that they need it, they're not ready for it. And then a lot of professionals, when they're communicating with their potential or prospective clients, they come right into this life insurance sales things, and no one wants to be sold, right? So I really appreciate you sharing that perspective. And I didn't want to interrupt your meeting too long, but I definitely am. I'm grateful that you allowed me to get that plug in. So please continue.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So one other thing that I would encourage the young healthcare professional to do is how to get and maintain your credit score. I say 700 plus, but I tell them to get it up to 800. Get as high as possible, so they don't have to spend their hard-earned money on paying interest and paying higher interest rates because their credit score is in the tank. They need to track their credit score on Credit Karma or Experian apps. There's a lot of apps out there. Pay your bills on time, pay your bills before the statement closing date, like I stated earlier, which is usually about 14 days before the due date, because this prevents the interest accrual. Pay the amount due, but double it, pay more than the amount due. Keep your credit card utilization below 30% cumulatively. So if you have 5 cards, they all maybe one is at 50, but the other is at 20. They cumulatively need to be at 30%. Review your credit report every quarter for any errors, discrepancies, and dispute any discrepancies. And there's a great tool that I use called Identity IQ. Not only does it tell you if someone has tried to, use your credit or enter your credit profile, but you can also review all 3 credit bureaus side by side. So when you get your report, you look at it and you can review all 3 of them. And if there's any discrepancy anywhere, like if the name is spelled differently on one versus the other, you can dispute that. You can have things removed off your credit if it's not. All 3 needs to be exactly the same. If they're not exactly the same, you can dispute it and you can clean up your credit that way. So that's really a great tool that I would encourage the younger person to start using. And then savings. It's important to set clear financial goals on how much you want to save monthly and what the plans are for the savings. Another quote by Warren Buffett, he says, "Do not save what is left after spending. Spend what is left after saving." And that's what I used to do. I used to try to save after I spent the money already. I was like, that's not a good plan. You have to literally be diligent and consistent about that saving. It's like you have to, and I have broken it down, I think, in the slide that y'all couldn't see, but 10% of your income used to go. And well, the way I do is I pay 10% to God first and then 10% to myself. And then, like I said, the other 10% goes to the long. So for your short-term savings, you would do 10%. And then for your long-term savings, you would do 10%. So that's super important. I think I have it there. And the short-term savings can be for big purchases that can be planned, like vacations, that type thing. And your long-term savings is the money that you're putting towards your 6 month of salary for emergencies. And you know, as we know right now, the world that we live in, you better have that long-term savings.
Thank you.
I think there's someone speaking.
I muted her out. Sorry about that.
Okay. So yeah, we definitely need an emergency fund in case you lose your job or you have a big household expense and you're not able to work due to illness or whatever it may be. It's important to have that long-term savings. And then investments. Investments is an essential, sorry for the typo, it should be an essential tool for growing your wealth, but healthcare professionals must tailor their strategies to their unique needs. They need to understand risk tolerance. They need to understand how to balance time constraints, i.e., you can't do fix and flips and do all this stuff if you're working full time. You probably don't have time to manage that. So you need to balance your time constraints and understand the risk tolerance and set clear goals. And diversification is the key to build your wealth for the future. So investments that I recommend, of course, is 401k. You can max out your contributions in the 401k. Some of them are 16% only annually. And as you know, they invest in stocks and bonds, mutual funds. They do the exchange traded funds, which means that kind of stays with the market. So I have some of my money in the exchange traded fund where no matter what happens with the market, I'm always get that 8%. I may get more, but at least it never goes below 8%. And then the 401(b) is also an option. And it just depends on the type of accounts you have. Some of them let you contribute unlimited and others stop you at about 16%. So whatever you can contribute to your 401ks. And then I'm a fan of real estate. I believe in buying property because I feel like it is the single best investment you can make. I have had a rental property for 21 years, and that property has paid for itself. And I still have it. And I'm glad that I have it. My goal was just to keep that property for my children. That's before I actually started investing in real estate. So that's actually my 6th property, I guess you'd say. Before I actually started investing, I bought that just as an investment property. And I said, you know, if my kids ever needed a home, they would always have a place to go. And actually, my son lives in that property right now. So I feel I'm a big fan of real estate. I would totally encourage healthcare professionals, invest your money in a rental property, because the rental property in California is kind of hard to cash flow because the properties are so expensive. But if you are breaking even in California, you're doing okay. And the tax benefits and all the things you get as a result of that property, you know, make up the difference. And if you can cash flow, you're doing really good. I'm a fan of self-directed IRAs. I have a self-directed IRA as well. And that's what I use to purchase my real estate. So basically, when I purchase the real estate, the money goes out of the self-directed IRA into the property. And then once I get the profit, it comes back into the self-directed IRA. So I don't even touch it. It goes out and it comes right back in. And so that's something that I would highly recommend. And then life insurance, the Index Universal Life. Tony and I had a long conversation about this because I have regular life insurance policies. And so this is my next move, is to get the IUL. I had not even heard about it until probably 6 months ago, to be quite honest. I've heard of like the whole life policies in the past, but I never had a whole life. So I would totally encourage your young clients to buy into this type because it just makes sense. It just makes sense to build wealth and build generational wealth for your family. And then I just put amateur tip because I'm not a finance professional by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just sharing my experience. But I would say get a good financial advisor because they can help you understand the market and the fluctuations in the market. And most can help you set goals and develop an overall financial plan. And then get a really good life insurance agent. And I think the two are mutually exclusive because some do all, but you know, I think you probably need both. If the agent doesn't do financial advisement, then get both. Get an expert that you can understand, so you can understand the right type of insurance to purchase, because it doesn't make sense to sock your money away into something that's not going to give you any value and benefit over the long term. And that's, you know, what I've done, and I don't want anyone to continue to do that. And I've encouraged my kids to get the IUL as well. So diversification, diversifying your investment portfolio is super important. It's key to mitigating risk. The healthcare professional should consider spreading their investments across stocks, bonds, mutual funds, self-directed IRA, real estate, rental property. And there's multiple types of rentals that you can do right now. Short-term rental, as you know, is very popular. That's the Airbnb. The long-term, and actually there's something called a midterm rental as well. Midterm rental is the rentals where traveling nurses may need traveling workers. There's a lot of traveling IT, and I think they call them digital nomads. They tend to go into short, midterm type rental situations. And then long-term rental is your regular short single family home that you rent out for a long term. And then multifamily, like duplexes, that's also a good rental opportunity. So real estate, I could talk about it all day, forever. I'm not going to bore you all night, but I feel like real estate investing is a viable option to build wealth. Real estate can be an attractive investment for healthcare providers due to its potential for stable and passive and long-term appreciation, passive income and long-term appreciation. For those with limited time, property management services can handle the day-to-day operations, allowing doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals to benefit from real estate without the associated stress. No one wants to be up at 2:00 in the morning with a toilet that's clogged. So it's so important that if you're going to get a rental property, you have someone manage it for you. The benefits of real estate investment is that there's a steady cash flow. Rental properties can generate consistent monthly income. And, I talked about California, but there's a lot of opportunities outside of California. And if you just evaluate your risk of even going to another area, there are people that they call boots on the ground in other locations. Like, for instance, my property in San Antonio, I have a realtor out there who I paid to oversight and manage the project for me. And she has been amazing. Like, she connects with the contractors. She's there at the property with them, kind of oversighting, managing timeframes, timelines, and that type thing. So if you can find, excuse me, someone that's boots on the ground that can help you out, you can invest in properties outside of California because there's a lot of great deals and opportunities out there. And then the appreciation potential. Real estate often appreciates over time. I can tell you in California, it always appreciates. Think back to the first home you purchased in California and think back to what you paid for it then and what it's worth now. It always appreciates. Every single time. The home that I purchased, I was telling you about earlier, I paid $220,000 for it in 2001. And this is 24 years later. That home is now worth over $850,000. So it's always going to appreciate. So real estate is always a good option. It adds net worth to your portfolio. And then the tax benefits. Property owners can leverage various tax deductions to reduce taxable income. Now, another topic that's close to my heart, retirement planning is so important. And we start retirement planning early. It's essential for taking full advantage of the compound interest and the strategic investments. Retirement planning tips for the healthcare professionals involve choosing the right accounts and maximizing contributions. And if your clients are as blessed as I was, Kaiser had a really great plan. So I've been able to pay into that plan from day one. I was 23 years old when I became a registered nurse. And so I started paying into it a long time ago. Now, early on, I didn't really understand how important it was to really dedicate, X amount of dollars. Like I would pay what they paid, or, they would match 5%. I just paid 5%. But then as I learned and I saw how it started to grow, it's like, okay, I need to do better than this. So I really started maximizing my contributions, and that's super, super important. And most companies have like the 401k, the 403b, the traditional and Roth IRAs, and the SEP IRAs, and the solo 401ks. That's ideal for like physicians who run their own practices because it's like a business, the solo 401k. And these options allow significant contributions and tax deferrals. And then important things to consider for retirement planning is the inflation protection. including investments that can keep pace with inflation. Diversification, balancing your retirement portfolio across various asset classes to mitigate your risk, and regular review. It's important to review your portfolio, review your retirement accounts just to see kind of where you are. Revisit your retirement plan annually or when major life changes occur to ensure it aligns with your evolving goals. And it's so important to have an expert to review it with you. I don't know if you remember the 2008 market crash.
I remember it painfully.
Okay,
Painfully.
I lost money, but you know what I did? I took my money out. No, I didn't take my money out. I stopped contributing, which is the worst mistake I could have ever made. Because of course, when it's low, that's when you buy, right? And then when it rebounds, then your money will double, triple. And that's because I didn't have knowledge and understanding at that time financially. And so that is something that I would totally impress upon the young investor, that you do not, like right now, you do not take your money out when, the market takes a turn, because you just let it sit. And before you know it, it'll come back up. Okay, so avoiding common financial pitfalls. Healthcare professionals can fall prey to financial missteps due to time constraints and lack of formal training, like I stated earlier, because they're busy and they don't always spend the time and give the energy and effort that they need to manage well, because they're making a lot of money and they're making it fast and they're spending it. They need to slow down and have a plan and stick to the plan. Here are the key pitfalls to avoid. Top financial mistakes that the healthcare professionals make: high interest debt. They need to avoid accumulating high interest credit card debt, as it can quickly erode your wealth, paying all those bills. Impulse purchases. I was guilty of this. The pressure to maintain an affluent lifestyle can lead to overspending. It's important to prioritize your needs over your wants. Over leveraging investments. Avoid risky investments that promise quick returns without adequate research. Time and compound interest is all you need. Time and compound interest in making good, solid, stable investments like real property. And then neglecting financial planning. Many healthcare professionals overlook comprehensive financial planning. Collaborating with a financial advisor who understands unique challenges faced by healthcare professionals can be a valuable investment in their financial future. So I'm ending my presentation, but I did include some financial resources for further learning, because I feel like continuous education is key to maintaining your financial literacy. And here's some advice and some good financial resources. There's a book called The Wealthy Code by George Antone, and The White Coat Investor by Jim Dahl is by a physician who wrote the book on investing, physicians investing. And there's an online community called Finance that I have been a part of, and they do a really fantastic job helping you understand how to create your portfolio and how to really manage your money. They teach you how to manage it yourself. And then there's online courses through Coursera and Khan Academy that offer courses on finance and investment. And there's a podcast that I love called Bigger Pockets. It's a finance/real estate investing podcast. They have a lot of great information, a lot of great just resources and tools. So that's something maybe you can share with your clients. And that is it. I feel that it's important to understand and implement sound financial practices. Healthcare professionals can ensure their financial well-being matches their professional success. A lot of times we're very successful in our careers, but our money doesn't always match the success. So we want to make sure that we keep on track. Building a solid financial foundation having financial literacy is so important, and it can help medical professionals achieve long-term stability and peace of mind, which is really what's important. So I do appreciate your time and attention and listening. My information is on the slide deck. If you have any questions or you want any of the resources, I'm happy to share. I've already emailed this presentation to Tony so he can actually forward it to you, or I can forward it to you as well if it doesn't work on his system. So thank you.
That was absolutely phenomenal. What your name is? I need y'all to come off camera, because y'all better have some questions for this. because you know I do. So either you want to let me take over and I ask my litany of questions, or you want to jump in there first. Who wants to jump in there? Because I know you got questions.
I
5.
have a question.
Miss Moore.
I saw your slide, treasurer inflation protected securities. That's a new one for me. What is that exactly?
So that's like, well, I was stating how you have your money in a certain account, right? And like I said, I'm not a financial professional by any stretch of the imagination, but the way my financial advisor explained it to me, if the market takes a turn, regardless, my money is going to stay at 8%. I may get more than 8% if it goes above that, but at least it won't go below. So I don't have to worry about losing my hard-earned last chunk of savings in my retirement account that I placed in his hands.
So it's similar to an IUL.
I'm not sure because I'm not really 100% like, I don't know about the IUL as it relates to that TIP or TPI, but I'm speaking of like the mutual fund type account.
Okay.
So if I can jump in there real quick, there's one major difference between the two. So and when you're talking about investments, even though she has a high return that's coming from that, you understand the money that she's investing is invested directly into the stock market, right? The money
Yes.
that goes into an IUL, that is after tax dollars, and and because it's an indexed or indexed universal life insurance product, that's hedged against the market. So she's got a pretty good setup with that, where she doesn't have to worry about suffering too great of losses. But the IUL is not directly tied into the market; it's hedged against the market. So that's the major difference.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Anyone else?
I don't have a question, but I would just like to commend you for what you have done. You have just put together something extraordinary and something very useful, and you're just an example for others to follow. And I just want to commend you.
I don't know if she's
Thank you
talking.
so
I think
much.
she's talking to Dr. Duncan over there.
No, I appreciate that comment. Thank you so much.
Yeah, she's. I told y'all she was fantastic. So since y'all taking so long to ask, y'all, it looks like Reagan want to ask a question.
Well,
What?
yeah. Hi there. Hi there, everybody. Hi, Tony. Um, uh, Thank you for a great presentation. I do have a question. You mentioned a couple of books that are good reads on financial literacy. Um, can you can you give the names of the authors slowly and the title of their books slowly? Or is it included in your presentation that you said that you can email to us?
Yes, ma'am. It's included in my presentation. I will be happy to email it to you, but it was The Wealthy Code by George Antone.
The Wealthy Code. And how do you spell his last name?
Antone.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Here,
And I
hold on.
okay.
And Reagan, I was going to send that over to everyone as well. And she actually has a copy of it. I love it.
Yeah. The Wealthy Code by George Antone.
Uh-oh. I can't hear you.
It's The Wealthy Code by George Antone. I'll send you the presentation. If you just put your email in the chat. Well, you're driving now. Are you driving? Uh-oh. I don't think she can hear us anymore, Tony. If you can get her information, Tony, I can send it to her. Because her piece went out, I think.
No problem. I take care of it. I was going to send everybody the information anyway.
Okay.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. While they're thinking of their question, I had a couple of comments / questions. I guess it's a hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk to you about. Well, I got 5 more minutes, so I want to talk to you about the greed. One of the comments that you made is in early in the presentation. I was talking about contentment and avoiding greed. That intrigues me because I do see healthcare professionals basically keeping up with the Joneses. So speaking as someone who's a life insurance producer, how do you approach them and try to talk to them? How do you help them with a mental shift from spendthrifting to just being able to manage their money wisely? And then I really love what you said about making sure you offer them assistance. So If I were to offer them assistance, what is the key? If you were to just, let's say, one thing that all healthcare professionals need out the gate financially, what is it they need? They just need the financial planning, retirement planning. What? What do they need?
All the things.
All
They
of it.
need the budgeting for sure. They need to understand investing and understand saving. So it's a process, right? We can't do it all at one time.
Right.
We start making the money, but we need to immediately understand that don't start spending it all, because a lot of people have been in school for a while, right? They've been in school for a long time. All of a sudden, like I talked about my sons were in college and broke. Well, they were really broke because we were constantly like giving them money, but you know what I mean? They had just enough to meet their needs. And then you go from that to now making $250,000 a year. That's a whole different
Yes.
shift.
Yes.
They just want to buy all the stuff. It's like, stop, halt for a minute. Understand the money that's been placed in your hand. Understand that you're in your money making years. You're not always going to be here in this place. You need to maximize the dollar that you make, and don't spend them all because you can't get them back. So helping them understand stewardship, helping them understand resource allocation. That's so important. Knowing where your money is going. You know, like people use that example, going to Starbucks, and that's $10 every day, right?
Yep.
You add that up in a month, you could have put that money in a mutual fund. So helping them understand the importance of just not doing all the shiny object syndrome, just going out there, going for all the stuff, but being smart and wise with what you're making, because you want to maximize your dollars so you don't have to stay in the workforce until you're 65 years old. Because there may be a time period when you need to get out. You need to be able to leave when you're ready to leave. But if you maximize your dollars and use them wisely, and that's the message I would get through to them, help them understand you're in a short life has seasons, and as we get older, we understand that. But when they're so young, they don't always understand that. They think they're going to be young forever. But things change, life changes, situations come, and you need to be a good steward over that money you're making now. You're making all that money. Be a good steward over it, so that as you get older, you'll be able to have some financial freedom.
I could. You know what? You said that so eloquently. I swear, you are a financial professional. It's just, and y'all got to excuse me because I get excited when someone gets it right. So one of the reasons why I wanted to do this weekly meeting and have guest speakers like you come on is because when you're the only one sounding the drum, people get kind of desensitized to your beat, right? But every now and again, you'll get someone come in and they'll play the same song, but it might have a different rhythm that might resonate with them better, right? Everything that you said, with the exception of a few key points, because some of that stuff you shared was like phenomenal. But the heart of the information that you shared is what we talk about weekly. But people get so desensitized to hearing, the Susie Ormans and who's that other guy that always talks badly about. I'm not going to say his name. But yeah, I didn't want to say it out loud.
Oh, okay.
But the bottom line, you have these people who keep talking. But what I try to get people to understand is who's the audience that they're talking to, right? Because most of the time, the audience that they're talking to are people that are basically already savvy, or people who already have the income to where the information that he's sharing actually matters. What about the people who are not in a position to get that information, or the people who might be in the position to get that information but just don't take advantage of it? So being able to have someone that has had a dynamic career like you have, who's basically been pulled 7 ways to Sunday, but still was able to come to, put this together, learn this information over a lifetime or a lifetime career, and still have so much vigor and still be able to continue to produce because of the information that you've gained. That's phenomenal. So, you've got 36 years in the medical industry and you're still young. So that means you got another 40 plus years ahead of you, but with this knowledge. I'm excited for you. That's fantastic.
Thank you, Tony. With the Lord's help.
Amen. Does anybody have another question? I know y'all got to ask her something. Ask a career question. Reagan, what you got?
I know I'm supposed to hit the raise the hand symbol on here. But anyway, Miss Duncan, I want to add to something that you said, regarding retirement planning. So all of this is points to retirement planning. It's just going backwards and starting from the beginning, because you should end up where you've built all of this towards retirement, towards the time when you. I am a Medicare professional, specifically Medicare health plans. And so when I'm talking to people who are turning 65 and going into their senior health plan, inevitably we get around to talking about something about retirement, about Social Security, because they're all related. There's money involved, there's spending involved on your Medicare health journey. And so that definitely should be a part of retirement planning, because there's an expense attached to it. So that's all I wanted to say. I'm yeah, like Tony said, very, very eloquent. And I'm like, wait, where does she work? What is the company what is her company, her financial planning company? But you mentioned that this is all from your heart. This is your experience. And my God, what wonderful experience that you speak to. And having a financial advisor, in your corner, to advise you, it's priceless. It's great. And so thank you for all the information. I heard some things that I hadn't heard before. And so I appreciate that. And I just wanted to add that part about include your health journey in your retirement planning.
You're absolutely correct. And thank you for bringing that forward. And I actually had it in my presentation initially and I took it out, but you're absolutely right. It's so important. And let me tell you why it's so important. I'm paying for my medical insurance right now and it's astronomical. I mean, it's crazy. I've had health insurance all these years, right? I went from having it with my mother when I was 26 years old. Then I started my own. Well, I had actually started working when I was 23. So I had my own insurance from then until now. I've never paid for health coverage. I had no idea how expensive it was. So that is so important to add that into your planning. If they do not have a job with benefit, hopefully they will, but you need to add that to the planning and the Medicare portion, because you hear that Medicare is free. It's not free. It comes with a significant cost, and it's not that expensive, but it's still costs that you have to incur.
Yeah, it's just something to consider. You have to consider
absolutely.
it. It's a line item.
Mm-hmm. And it definitely is.
And HSAs, are an option. If a lot of these people work for years, they contribute to an HSA.
Mm-hmm.
You know how you take an HSA with you, unlike a flexible spending account, but that HSA is a whole different vehicle. And I don't even know a whole lot about it, but I know that you can take it with you. And for some people that have accumulated so much money in it, it's possible that you can consider self-financing your own insurance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It might be the way to go, so that you can avoid when you go into Medicare for high income earners. And I'm talking about $104,000. And these days we know that $100,000 is great if you don't have a lot of expenses, regardless of what age you are. $100,000, can really mean something. But if you make over $104,000, you incur an additional cost, and so that additional cost has to be considered and included in your retirement planning. Once again, another line item to consider.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And,
Sure.
the catch is, like I stated, I retired early, right? And my employer will pay for my insurance when I'm 65.
Nice.
But I had 7 years to wait. So from then till I'm 65, I have to pay for my insurance for 7 years. And I even have a big HSA account sitting there waiting for me but I can't get it until I'm 65.
Right.
So that being said, that's important to help, those who do well with their finances and want to retire early. You may have to cover your own insurance coverage for a while. So
yeah, but it might be worth it to them. And it's great. I'm so glad you said that your employer is going to pay for your Medicare premium, because it saves them at least $900 a month. By letting, not letting you have the option to go into Medicare even while you're still working, but it's saving them a ton of money to take you off of their benefits and pay your premium for you. And I suppose that's what you meant, that they're going to pay your Medicare premium for you, your Part B premium.
Yeah, I get that. Plus, I will get coverage, like Kaiser coverage. So I get Kaiser coverage in addition to the Medicare. So it's kind of like dual coverage.
Yeah.
The way I see it is they're not really doing anything because I already have Medicare anyway, but it's kind of like a dual coverage. Plus, they give me that HSA thing, the account that'll go with that. So we'll see how it all teases out. But for now, I'm paying it.
Yeah, until you hit that age, it's this is that weird period. So after someone gets out of college, they're no longer able to stay on their parents' insurance. So hopefully they get a job. They are in a group health plan, and then once you leave that group plan or whatever the case is, and you might have to make a big contribution to that depending on what company you work for.
Right.
But there comes that time where might be completely on your own. And that's when, you've really got to do some homework, or just know that it could potentially be a real, sticking issue for you, the cost of your insurance, until you turn 65, where more options open up to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
A lot to consider. Yeah. Thank you.
Definitely.
Well, to both of you, thank you so much, because that was phenomenal. And please excuse everyone for us going over just slightly, but I did not want to interrupt that conversation because that was extremely powerful. And just for everyone's edification, Miss Reagan Atkins Small, she is a Medicare professional, and she will be presenting next Tuesday. So we want to keep this conversation going, because a lot of this information, people are starting to get, understand the importance of getting it, and they're starting to gain more and more access. And I want to cite one comment, one thing before we go. I appreciate Reagan bringing up the HSA and the FSA, the Health Savings Plan, and what is it? What is the FSA?
Flexible spending account.
Flexible spending account and health
Flexible spending account.
Yes. I had both of them back in the day, and last week we actually had Dr. Lori Gibbons discuss those. So one of the reasons why I love that she brought that up is because as we continue to have these discussions, the education that we're gaining, it gets added to our conversation overall. So when it becomes a natural conversation for us to talk about HSAs, FSAs, solo 401ks, IRAs, Roth IRAs, IULs, life insurance in general, real estate, investing, budgeting. When that becomes a natural conversation that we're having, not just on these presentations, but in our households, in our work environments, at the gym, you're just hanging out with people. When it becomes natural and organic, that's when the education really starts to spread, and then we can do more and more having that knowledge, and then as a community we can continue to be strengthened. So I thank you both for your conversation. Ms. Duncan, thank you so much for your presentation. You might not be a financial professional, but I'll go ahead and send you your CPA certificate after this call. So thank you so much, Ms. Moore. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ms. Moore, for being on. Thank you so much, Sabrina, for being on. Joseph, even though you didn't, matter of fact, Joseph, if you're there, you better say hi before you get out of here. Ms. Marsh, thank you so much for always being so supportive. Mrs. Faulkner, thank you so much for being on. Reagan, Marilyn, Ms. Duncan, thank you all so much for being on. Next week, again, Reagan Atkins Small, she's going to be doing an encore performance of the Medicare conversation, because a lot of people were talking about how great a job she did, and with some of the changes that's been happening with the current administration. And I guess I want to close out with this comment. I need everybody to understand what an executive order is. Okay, so an executive order is guidance from the president, right? The president does not write law. That is the responsibility of Congress. So even though you hear all this noise about all these executive orders, if Congress does not create that law, write the bill and pass the law, and it's ratified by the courts, it is not a law. Okay, so don't be distracted by all this noise, because that's what they want for you. It is best that we continue to have these conversations so we understand what the truth is, so we can act on the truth rather than react from all the lies and the rhetoric that's going on in the airways. I thank you all again so much for being on. And with that, I end this conversation. I look forward to seeing you all next week. God bless you all.
Take care.
And did someone just come back on right now?